Welcome to another amazing episode of the Profitable Home Services Podcast. So glad that you chose to join us again today. I know your time's valuable, but we're going to make it worth your while. Today, my guest is Gene Slade, and he's got some really super cool stuff up his sleeve to share with us on this episode. So, with that, Gene, welcome. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Diane. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the platform and talk to your viewers.
Now, I know you've had your own, was it an HVAC company?
I've had an HVAC company, also a water treatment company.
Water treatment. Okay.
A couple
Tell
HVAC companies, actually.
okay. Tell our listeners a little bit about your journey of how you got from being the guy running the company to the guy behind the microphone.
Well, I started getting behind the microphone around 2006, but we can talk about that later. I started in the heating and air conditioning business when I was really young. My father owned his own heating and air conditioning company. He was like a one-man truck. And my uncle was the same, but in plumbing. So when I was 11, my dad was like, if you want food, if you want clothes, come to work. So I did. And I carried his tool bag really for the first year or so. But around the time I was 13, I was doing the outdoor system and he was doing the indoor system, and we would meet in the middle. And that was my life during the summers and sometimes after school when I wasn't doing sports or on the weekends. So my dad was tough. He would do things like fire me every time I didn't leave the basement with something we didn't need anymore to save a trip, right? Like he really got me thinking about processes and not wasting time and being efficient. He'd make me sit in the truck basically the rest of the day if I did something like that.
Now, my
Until he
my
meet.
dad, my dad was an electrician, and he did the same type of thing. He was always getting me to think two steps ahead. If you're going to walk in and do something, what else do you need before you leave the building?
Yeah.
And I just thought that was just my dad, but to hear you say that about your dad, that's cool that both of our dads taught us to think that way. I always said I was his oldest son because I
Did
was the
did he
one
ever
out
fire
there.
you for it or no?
No, because he didn't have his own business. I was just slave labor. Just whatever he
Yeah.
was working on, whoever's house he was working on, I was his slave labor.
So my dad would fire me until he needed somebody to go into a tight space or a crawl space. Come on, boy, get back out the truck. But no, it was good. He really made me a good installer. And knowing the mechanical side and knowing how things come together. I've been taking stuff apart and putting it together since I was like 3. But he really made me good at the mechanical side so that when I did eventually get into the communication side, I knew what I was talking about. I wasn't just a salesperson, right? And I really considered myself more of an installer. And I told people when I got out of installation and into sales, look, if you're looking for a salesperson, let me know. I'll call one. All right. I'm an installer. I know how to put this stuff in right. And I will tell you what I think about what we should do. And then you can take it from there. Would you like an installer or would you like me to call out a salesperson? And they loved me being an installer. They just felt like it was way lower pressure. So that's a quick tip for any of you installation technicians or service technicians out there that are put in a position where you might have to sell systems. You can give the clients that option. You can say, look, if you'd like me to get a salesperson out here, by all means, I can make that happen. I'm a service technician. I know how the system works. I know how they get installed. If you want me to take a look at this and tell you what I think I would do if it was my house, then I'm happy to do that, or I can get a salesperson. What would you prefer? And 9 times out of 10, they'd rather deal with you than a
Very good.
salesperson, right? And that's really what I considered myself. Now, today, people would say I'm more of a salesperson than an installer or a service tech, but that's what they would say just because this is all I show them, right? Until they come to one of our classes.
They don't see that other side of you, the side that it's embedded so deep in your brain back there. You've forgotten more than what a lot of them know.
I can tech with the best of them. And that's why it works so well when I go on site and I get that guy who's been in the business for 30 or 40 years, the old timer that thinks he's going to try to embarrass me or challenge me on stage. And it ends up working out great because I end up gaining rapport with that guy because now he's like, hey, this guy's not just a guy who talks. He understands the mechanics too, right?
And that's huge. Yeah.
So that by the time I was 15, I was a qualified lead installer. My dad hired a 21-year-old to drive me around because I didn't have a license yet. And we now had a 2 truck company. And then around 19, I became an installation foreman for a large mechanical company up in Flint, Michigan. You guys have heard of Flint, Michigan before. And that didn't last very long um, because I really, really had the itch to get out of the mechanical side. I mean, when you're working in basements and it's sub-zero temperatures and there's ice on the walls and you're working with metal ductwork that you can't really put gloves on because you got zip screws and stuff and you got to touch the, it's a miserable job. And I don't think the installation teams get enough credit. I really, really wish that a lot of them would start to think about how do they educate themselves to be able to get into a position where they can communicate rather than just work with their hands and break their backs for the rest of their lives. Right?
Oh,
That's really my passion in this industry is for those laboring technicians, not really even the salespeople. It's for the laborers who are making 40, 50, 60 grand a year who will never be able to retire on that, who are going to be stuck behind that wheel of that truck for the rest of their lives if they don't figure out that you can make way more money with these lips talking to a client than you can with your hands.
and that's something I love about working with the owners in the whole home service industry, whether it's HVAC, plumbing, electrical, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
So many of them have come up from being an installer or a tech or
Pretty much all of them.
whatever. They pretty much, yeah, and they're working their way up. And it's so cool to watch them as the light bulb goes on and they learn a new skill, whether it's
Yeah.
a listening, a speaking, a mindset, they learn a new skill and now they just elevate their business. And then they
And to
learn
watch
another
them
new
get it,
skill.
it's like Christmas Day,
Yes.
right?
To me, it's like nothing better. I sparkle after I've had a call with one of them and they've got it on something.
I
I go
get
tell
that.
my whole team, guess what? They think I'm crazy, but that's okay.
So around the time you remember around the time of 9/11, that was right around the time that I ended up getting my first sales job because I was just tired as an installer of seeing sales guys make 100K and me make 40K. And this is back in the early 2000s. So I ended up finding my first sales position within a couple of years. I think it was around 2003 or 4. I had broken the 7-figure mark as a residential replacement salesperson. And I didn't know anybody else who was really doing much more than that. So I got really bored and I almost quit the industry. I mean, I tried to quit the industry. But then I found some people down in Florida, a guy who was selling about 800,000 more than me a year. And I was like, well, heck, I'm not the best out there. There's somebody that's better than me. I want to go learn from this guy. So I took a position, moved from Michigan to Florida, sold my house to go down and train with this guy. And the day that I arrived, he left.
Oh no.
Yeah, and he went to Tampa about 2 hours north. And I'm like, golly gee, right? Like I just moved halfway across the country to train with this guy, and now he's gone. Now what do I do? And so I did what I could where I was at for a while. I learned a lot of stuff, but then 6 months later, he ended up calling me and he recruited me to come up to Tampa to help build a company up there. And so we built that company from like 2 to 8 million in like 3 years. We were one of the fastest growing companies in Tampa Bay.
Wow.
And eventually he and I parted ways and I ended up starting my own air conditioning company. I actually got fired, truth be told. I took a couple of vacation days and I went to take the mechanical contractor's exam. Now, I should be clear with you. I didn't take any books. I didn't study for the test. It was a practice exam for me. I just wanted to see what was on the test before I bought $2,000 worth of books. Well, I accidentally passed both the law and the contracting part. I ended up with like a B score, and so I was technically able to get my license. And 2 days later, I don't know how my boss found out, but they found out that I passed my test. I didn't tell anybody, not a soul, just Jesus, and I knew, right? And but they fired me. I don't know if it shows up in a database somewhere, but they're like, "Hey, we found out you passed your exam. Your services are no longer required." And I
Wow.
had I had $100 to my name. That was it. I'd been paying off all of my debt. making sure my credit score and everything was good so that when I started my business, eventually, a year from now, at that point, I'd be okay. Well, I had to decide, am I going to start my business or am I going to do this for somebody else again? And so I went and took out like 20 plus credit cards. The very same day I went down,
Oh.
yeah, I literally went down to the dealership immediately and purchased 2 trucks before the banks realized I didn't have a job. And then I moved 120 miles south to Fort Myers and I bought 2 hours worth of AM radio on the weekend. And for 2 hours every weekend, I would talk about maintenance. One of the areas that people don't give enough credit
They don't.
in the air conditioning business. And for the record, I do HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roofing, pest control. Like there's a lot of stuff I do. But HVAC was my baby back in the day. And so I literally went on the air and gave away free tune-ups. Free. And I would spend 120 minutes at least on each one of those calls.
Mhm.
And here's the crazy thing that most people wouldn't believe. I didn't even sell air conditioners. I'm in Florida. I'm in Southwest Florida, and I decided I didn't want to sell air conditioners because number one, there was ductboard, and I didn't like how itchy it was, and I didn't want to do the installs myself. And number
Okay.
two, I didn't want to deal with installers. Frankly, a lot of installers are a pain in the you know what,
Mhm.
and the mindsets in general, stereotypically, are not great. That's not true for all of them.
No, there are some superstars out there.
I have had some guys, some of my best salespeople have turned out to be installers.
Uh-huh.
But in general, pain in the butt to deal with, right? Different mindset. I just wanted to operate a sales organization. So for 2 years, we didn't even sell air conditioners, a whole 2 years. And we were doing over $1 million a year just in indoor air quality and surge protectors and accessories that protected people's systems and made them last longer. Our motto was we don't sell air conditioners. We just make yours run better. And
Okay.
so we sold a ton of parts and a ton of air quality stuff. And after 2 years, we were losing about 10% of our customer base a year, which turned out to be about 100 or so clients at a $10,000 average ticket, which was $1 million or so in revenue. And so we finally relented and decided that we would go ahead and take replacements when they had a system that really needed to be replaced. But I was taught that not to market really for systems, but to just let my business, let the service department generate those leads, right? Because we didn't really want to be in the going out and pitching bids business, if you will. Plus, if you build your business around that, and then you've got a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or $6 million guy, and he walks away, you could
You're
be in
hurting.
deep trouble,
Oh, yeah.
right? So people got to be very careful about building their businesses around one piece of talent. So at the end of the day, we started that business 6 years, and one day later, we sold it for a really nice profit. We had won a couple of Inc. magazine awards, and one of the things that got us there, though, was a radio show that we were talking about. And
Mhm.
so after 6 months of semi-retirement, I decided I would do that radio show for other people because I owned the rights to it. It was all scripted out. And so I just traded my name for somebody else's and started making their phones light up. And eventually their technicians weren't closing deals. And so I had to go out and show them how to close them. And that's really where Lead Ninja took off. Now,
Isn't it
today, we're
funny?
the number one sales training company for the HVAC, plumbing, electrical businesses.
It's funny how those things happen and we can't find a solution, so we just fix it ourselves.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Now, listen, I had help along the way. I had mentors. There were books. There were people that
Oh,
came
yeah.
into my life. But yeah, I mean, there's something about going through that fire
Yep.
and it changes you, right?
If you haven't been through the fire, you will go through the fire. That's just part of life because
Whether it's a
that's
good or
what
bad
grows
one.
you up and that's
Yep.
what sets you on the path that you need to be on. Because if you never went through the fire, there's no backbone there. There
Yeah.
just can't be. You know, you have to have gone through the fire at
It's
least a
tough.
couple of times.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if you're going to continue growing, be prepared to continue to go through them.
You will go through it again.
We're
Yes.
going
Well,
through one right now, trying to expand ourselves and stretch ourselves. We're going through it right now.
yeah, I had a right arm person leave a little bit unexpectedly on me during the summer. There went another firestorm as we worked
Hmm.
our way through it and decided how we were going to get through this.
Yeah.
'Cause I had too
You
much of my
usually,
faith in
hopefully
her.
better on the other side, right?
It's much better on the other side.
Mm,
We've really transformed our company.
I love that.
So, but it was a forced thing to do. I knew we needed to do it. We've been needing to do it for a
Hmm.
few years, but it got forced. And so now it happened
Hmm.
instead of I'll get to it tomorrow.
Right.
So, yeah. So sometimes those fires are amazing. Yeah. And what comes out the other side.
Amen.
Yeah. So now you're helping other companies be successful with their sales. And you've also developed some other systems and things along the way.
Are you
Share a little
referring to
bit.
something specifically?
I am referring to what we were talking to before we went live. You have a program out there that'll really help increase their sales. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So one of the things that just I always remember about being a service technician or a maintenance technician in a truck, or even, a ductwork salesperson or a salesperson. I remember working 70 and 80 and sometimes 90 hours a week. I remember missing dinner with my young kids, with my wife. I remember missing tucking them in at night, walking through that door at 10 or 11 or 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning, and them being asleep already, and the way that that felt. And truthfully, the reason that I was experiencing that was because I was not good enough of a communicator to be able to have a high enough success rate to have enough money to be able to choose whether or not I wanted to work or not. And my heart just bleeds for so many of these technicians who are out there whose bosses want them to sell stuff, who, number one, either maybe don't even believe in the stuff that they're selling because nobody's really truly sold them on it themselves. Number two, they've been told to sell stuff by their boss and only been given a technical outlay from a manufacturer's representative about how it works. They've never been told how to get the clients to want it. And then they get beat up in the sales
Constantly.
meetings
Yes.
from the bosses saying, you're not selling enough. Like that really frustrates me. It really gets under my skin. Like if your salespeople suck, sorry guys, you suck. Okay, like that's not me saying that. That's like Larry Wingett. If you ever heard of Larry Wingett, he says, if your kids suck, you suck. If your salespeople suck, you suck. If your business sucks, you suck.
Yeah. It
You're,
all
you're
starts with you.
yeah, you're sucking at stuff, right? So if your salespeople are not doing a good job, it's because of leadership most of the time,
Mhm.
right? And I only know this because at one time I was a very bad sales leader. I did not know how to train technicians. I would go in the morning and I would speak in front of them and expect them to just get it. I didn't have the stuff written down. I didn't have stuff for them to learn and to memorize. In school, were you or were you not taught to memorize stuff?
Definitely.
That was about it. They didn't really teach us to think for
No, we
ourselves or
didn't.
to
Just
think at
memorize.
all,
Right.
right? Memorize things, get general education and general knowledge because they wanted to create workers, right?
Mhm.
They're not trying to create minds that think and create. We could get into a whole subject on that, couldn't we? So I'm struggling. My brain gets a little bit off, but anyhow, so we've never been taught how to get people to want stuff, or we've never been told how to sell the problem. And so I've had a lot of great mentors. One of them a billionaire, other ones worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and I've been fortunate enough to have save enough of my money to give to these people to learn from them. And I get the pleasure of sharing that with everybody that's in my world now. And so I really my heart is to help guys to work less, at the same time make more money and get home for dinner on time and be able to do fun stuff on the weekends with their families, right? I know that you guys don't want to die behind that wheel and just give everything that you generate to the people that you love. You want to be with them. And until you learn how to speak to people, until you learn how to communicate with people, don't even think of it as selling. Think of it as helping people get what they need, whether they know that they need it or not, and not forcefully, but through the use of language and tactical language at that, and understanding how their brain and their psyche works so that you can help them. Do you realize, people out there, that you can't help people unless you understand how those people work?
Because there's a whole lot of stuff that happens up here in a brain that
And folks are different,
they are. Yes. And we come
right?
at it from a different angle. And
Yeah.
we have different levels of backgrounds and knowledge and things like that. But if you're a salesperson, your tech, your installer, whoever that might be, can come at it from a term I always use, this in air quotes, serve selling. So you're serving them. You're not selling them something. You're serving them. You're making their life better somehow.
I, I want to serve those installers right now. Can we do that? Can
Yes.
I give them something?
Please give them something. They
So
need it.
installation technicians, please listen up, because I'm going to share with you how to make a little bit more money right now. And you might have to go to the boss and say, hey, boss, listen, if I can sell one of those fancy, air filters or ultraviolet systems or whatever, can I get a piece of that? Right? They should give you at least 8%. Okay, maybe 10. Just go talk to the boss about it. Next time you're pulling out a system and you've got the new system that you're getting ready to put in, set the two next to one another. All right. If you've got an air handler, turn it upside down. This is specifically for the HVAC people, right? We could talk about other trades if you guys want to reach out to me. But HVAC guys, turn that air conditioning system upside down. Is it nasty? Does it look gross? Of course it does. Bring the client out and just say, hey, have we consulted with you? Write these words down. Have we consulted with you on how to make sure that this new system doesn't end up looking like this?
Oh, wow.
And then shut up. They will say no. All right. Then just ask them, write this down. Is that something that you would like for me to do for you before I go? And then shut up. They will say yes. Go back to your truck, put a couple of different things on a line sheet of paper. Okay. And then just go back to them and say, this is the least that I would do. If I had the money, I would do this. And this would be really great too. I swear, it's all you have to say.
So
Your,
simple.
your clients don't look at you as a salesperson. You're not a salesperson, but you do want to help them, yes or no. Otherwise, you wouldn't try to do such a great job at your job. You wouldn't try to make it look so neat. You wouldn't try to put straight mastic lines on the thing. You care. Why should the company and the client not care about you? Right? Uh, Guys, if you just use the words I gave you, I swear to you, those are actually the exact words. The first two questions are the exact words that I would use as an owner when I would go out to an installation that was taking place. They didn't know I was the owner of the company, but I would go out as a supervisor and I would just say, have we consulted with you yet on how to make sure your new system doesn't look like this? Is that something you'd like me to do for you before I go? I'd go make a list, come back, share it with them. Super short words. I'm telling you, you will have a massive impact on people's lives. Installers, listen to me. When was the last time a customer called you back and said, hey, thank you for putting in that air conditioning and heating system for me? Makes my life so much better. It's
Probably
never
never.
happened. It's never happened. But I promise you, when you begin to put in air quality products that clean up their air, that make their life better, that make them sleep better, that make them have more energy, that they're ready to tackle the day when they wake up, that little Johnny and their Susie, they're not sniffling anymore. They don't have the sinus infections, fewer trips to the doctor, less time waiting in waiting rooms, exam rooms, being poked, being prodded, being told what to do. More, I'm telling you, you will get people calling you up and saying thank you and that you changed my life. What would that be like? Right. And then
Wow.
I get installers go, yeah, that shit doesn't work. Excuse me for cussing on the show. Right. That stuff doesn't work. Okay. That's why in 2025, there will be over $1 billion worth of ultraviolet lights manufactured just in the United States, but they don't
Because
work.
it doesn't work.
Yeah. Go. Get out of here. So I'm off my soapbox now.
Okay. Well, I love the simplicity of that because it doesn't sound like you're trying to sell me anything. You're
No.
genuine. You're here to help me stay more healthy, help me have a better home life for my family, and it comes across as genuine caring. So I
And
hope
you
they
can say
wrote those
no,
down, and I'll make sure my team gets those terms in the show notes so if they're driving or something and they couldn't write it down, we'll put it down below in the show notes for them.
for sure.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. I
That's
love
my
things
pleasure.
like that because I hear owners different times complaining, well, my installers just aren't selling anything, or my techs just aren't selling
Yeah.
anything. Well, dude or dudette, whichever one it is, when's the last time you really put some quality time into them? It
My
starts with you.
gosh.
The buck stops there. You're the
Yeah.
owner.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it to the extreme now. Like people
Okay.
are gonna think I'm crazy now. They're gonna think I'm absolutely nuts that I'm off my rocker. Do you know how often we did training at my company?
Daily.
Yeah, 5 days a week, 7:30 every single morning. They were in the training room. There's a big sign above the training room that said free training. Okay. You were not required to show up. But if you didn't show up, you didn't have a job very long. I can promise you that because you were not at the top of the board. And everybody that was at the bottom of the board was constantly being pruned. Right.
That's right.
So, like, we trained daily and it was for anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour and a half. I would sit at the end of the table. Two guys would stand up and role play one of our presentations. I'd be listening while they were role playing it to see if they were off at all. And at the same time, I'd be looking at the prioritized lists. I wanted to see what my guys had quoted the day before. And if they were out on a maintenance and we created a prioritized list, here's another tip for you guys. Create a list. It's got 3 categories: mandatory, near future, nice to have. You ready? Mandatory, near future, nice to have. We all see
Okay.
things that we know that are causing permanent and irreversible damage, and that the client is paying for it, whether they get something done or not. Yes or no?
Yes.
Those would be things that I would consider mandatory if they're paying for it, whether they get it or not, and it's causing permanent and irreversible damage and putting them in a worse position than they were before I got there. To me, that's mandatory. Does that mean I'm going to smash their head off the table to get them to buy? No. Right? No, but I'm okay with using the terms. Look, if this were my house, this would be mandatory. Right? There are things that you can see that you know are going to need to be done in the near future. Put those in another column and then put stuff that would be nice to have. So I was looking for the stuff that was nice to have. I was looking, did you have a HEPA filter on the list? If not, why? Did they have one? And they'd be like,
Uh,
no. And I'm like, well, why is it not on the list? And they're like, And I'm like, is there a good reason other than money that everybody shouldn't have one of those? And they'd be like, no. So if they were free, everybody'd have one? They'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, okay, well, let's put it on the list. You don't even have to talk about it, but put it on the list. Okay.
put it
They
on the
might
list
even
and
ask
let
you
them
a
see it.
question about it. They
They
might
might.
actually decide that they want it. Who are you to decide that they can't have it? Put it on the list.
Right.
Make sense? So I'm not in the business of choosing for people what they should or shouldn't or can or cannot have. And I've had so many people come over to my house or my houses. Like one house I didn't have a water treatment system in. I was planning on putting one in, but I had a plumber come out. He didn't say anything about it at all. I feel like that's malpractice. Every single supply side plumbing problem comes from crappy water.
Mhm.
Why would you not help me protect my plumbing system? Why would you not say something? I'm guessing too many customers beat you over the head when you tried to do it one time, and nobody ever trained you on how to do that.
Right.
So that's what we do. We train people on how to have those conversations so that they don't get beaten up by their customers or made to feel like they're just trying to sell them something. We teach them how to ask the right questions. You've heard so many salespeople say, or sales trainers say, you got to ask them questions, but they never tell you what questions to ask.
What the right ones are, yeah.
We give you all the questions to ask.
Yep. A term that floats around in my world is get out of your client's wallet. Get out of
Yeah,
their pocketbook. Don't, how
100%.
dare I make the decision that you can't afford something I have to offer
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah,
Shame on me for doing that.
I'll
I should give
even
you the opportunity. You can
I'll
say
put
no.
I'll put the biggest and best stuff in front of you. Like my opening, like one of my openers when because I always show people the best product that I have first, right? I don't want to make the decision for them. So I literally will go, no, look, very few people are fortunate enough to own something this nice, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. I show it to them,
Ooh.
and you'd be surprised how many people want it. I
Well,
mean,
you
people,
just put them in an elite club with
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
very few people that I say that to get the basic system. It's
yeah,
usually
yep.
at
They'll at
least the
least step
premium.
up. Yeah, they'll at least
Yeah.
step up. Yeah, yep,
So funny.
yeah. I love your words, your phrases that you use because they come across sounding genuine.
Well, they are.
I would say, and that is because they are.
Yeah. And see, so many people think to be a good salesperson, you got to be willing to lie, cheat, and steal. And that is a percentage of salespeople. And I hate that for our industry. But guys, there's so much clean money out there. You don't have to lie to people, cheat. Everything with us has got to be ethical, moral, and honest. Okay. There's so much clean money out there. You don't have to rob anybody to get it, but you do have to put in some time into yourself. You got to work on your own personal growth. If you're not reading every day, if you're not working out every day, if you're not focusing on you and becoming the best version of yourself, the 10.0 version of you, you're going to get left behind.
And then
So,
how
I
can
mean,
you expect your team
yeah.
to grow
And,
if
and
you're not
oh
growing
my
so you can
God.
lead them?
Yeah. Think about this. If you're a business owner out there right now, this is something that was really, really hit me hard when I really took it into consideration, was that the people that are inside of your organization, they have dreams, right? Maybe they're not the dreams they used to have, and maybe that's a challenge that you could help them with too. But if your dream as an owner is not big enough for everybody else's dreams to fit inside of, they will leave you.
Okay, well,
And so some of you are sitting there going, I don't want to have too big of a business. That's the difficult road. Not having a business that runs without you, not putting the systems and processes in place is what's keeping you frustrated. And it's why you don't want to grow, because you think bigger means harder, but it's not. Oh, oh man. But it all starts with sales. It really does. Nothing in business happens until a sale is made, which is why I want all of you eventually to come out to one of our events and see how we transform lives. I mean, I've had at least a half a dozen guys this year who were either homeless within the last 18 months, in prison within the last 18 months, or a circumstance just as bad,
mhm.
who now they went from zero to making three and four and $500,000 a year as maintenance technicians, helping people. One of them will make 600. He just closed his year out in 2024 at 6,050 something thousand dollars. Guy was in prison 18 months ago. Has
Wow.
completely radically transformed his life. Is a Christ follower. Has got a family. He's a good husband. But he spent the better part of his adult life in prison, meth, heroin, shit like that. And they come into our ecosphere and they feel the love, right? They feel the support, and they find a system that they can use to absolutely transform their family tree. And that's what these guys have done. Billy's done it. Stefan's done it. Corbin's done it. Luke has done it. Dustin's done it all this year. And all these guys are just, it's just the greatest joy of my life to
That is
watch those
amazing.
kinds of transformations. And if you just Google any one of those names, along with my name, just put it into the Google, you'll find an article that some publication in the United States, a large publication, has written about them and their
And,
transformation.
and that's why you do what you do. And that's why I do what I do, because we care. We care so
It's
passionately.
selfish. It is. It's selfish for me. I want to have that feeling, that joy that comes from that transformation. It's what I work for. I work for the thank yous. The money's
Right.
great. and I work for the thank yous, right? Like, and I've got a phenomenal life. We're going to go up to Orlando. We're going to drive up to Orlando here tomorrow, and then 2 days from then, my buddy Gary Cox, he's a celebrity mindset guy, will pick me up on the private jet and take us up to the Carolinas. I'll train a team up there. He's going to come back up to the Carolinas and pick us up and bring us back to Florida. I mean, like, we get to live such a rich, blessed life because we pour into people. And it just, I don't know how much better life can really get. Truly, when you, if you're not pouring into other people, if you're not pouring into your community, if you're being selfish right now, and I understand it because I was there where you're at until I was at least 35 years old. If you can get a purpose, guys, if you can grab a purpose like I have to help people make more money, work less, and get home for dinner on time, and you can really embrace that, man, you can have a great life. It's not all about the money. It's about the impact in our communities and other human beings. Once you get that, you will be living a life of joy, folks.
And that's an amazing place to be when you get to that
Yes,
point
ma'am.
and you're no longer just grinding it out.
We still grinding it out.
I know, but in a different way though. You don't have cobwebs sticking to your hair now.
This is true. This is
And
true.
creepy crawlies crawling on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, we've come to the section of the show where it is time to talk about a unique or hidden profit leak. So I'm going to drop some money in our profit bucket. Turn it this way. And that's our proud to be profitable bucket for those who are not watching on YouTube. You're hearing it on one of the audios. Our proud to be profitable bucket. And for those of you that listen to us on a regular basis, know this is a time to really listen up. Turn off any other noise. Listen up, because this is where our guests share a unique or hidden profit leak that they see. And these profit leaks have been amazing that we've uncovered. So, Gene, what do you have to share with us?
Well, listen, this isn't going to be anything life-changing or anything you guys haven't heard before, but I'm going to try to bring something to it that you haven't been given yet. So, and I'm going to talk about specifically, let's say, the HVAC and the plumbing industries. When it comes to HVAC, most clients that I have met are really trying to push the replacement side of their business. And I love that for them. That's fantastic. And when they do that, many times they don't pay any attention to the maintenance and service department side of the business. And so that, rather, you talk about leaks, right? That ends up draining the profits from the replacement department, right? So you're making money over here, but this over here is a suck, right? Most people don't realize that the profit from the service and maintenance department can rival the profits of the replacement department. And when we are creating that prioritized list that we were talking about of things that are mandatory, near future, and nice to have, that also many times prompts clients to say, well, shoot, that's a $15,000 list. How much is a new one? So we literally never have conversations with clients about repair versus replace. That's an uncomfortable and awkward conversation to have. But if I have a list that's $15,000 or $20,000 large, and let's say only $1,500 of it really is being reinvested into this old system, they still ask that question, how much is a new one? And so what I want you to do is reply to that client with, why would you want a new one? And kind of scrunch your eyes at them, right? I want you to really try to figure out where are they coming from? What is their dominant buying motive? What is the primary reason that they're asking for that? And listen, okay? Because they'll probably say something like, well, it's old and it's been breaking down. We're going to be here for another 10 years, right? Because listen, because they will give you several reasons that you can use later to help them get what they really want and need. All right. Now, keep in mind, what I'm doing is I'm pull selling. How much is a new one? Most guys get excited and pee all over themselves when a client says, how much is a new one? Right? Because they want to have that conversation. Oh my God, the boss has been telling me to sell stuff. Now they're asking. No, you want to slow play that. You want to go, why would you want a new one? And then once they give you a couple of reasons, You can say, you know what, you're right. It is old. It's unreliable. The parts can be hard to come by. When we can find them, they're expensive. You could be without plumbing, air conditioning, electrical, roofing, whatever it is, overnight or longer. So sure, I agree with you. You should probably look at that. Or plus, with the amount that you're overpaying the utility company, you could just about get a new one with a warranty. So sure, I agree with you. Maybe we should look at that. Like I'm slow playing it. I'm not that guy who's so excited to sell you something. And really, how does that change the client's perception of you? Do you think that makes anything easier?
Oh, definitely.
It's been my experience that it does. So, getting back to your question, I would be creating those prioritized lists. I would be quoting or putting on that list as much as I possibly could. If the client could use it, don't decide for them. Let's just add it up real quick, okay? We could go with a 1-inch electronic style filter. That's about 1,200 bucks, right? Most systems could use at least 2 ultraviolet systems. Those are at least 800 bucks a piece. So what are we up to, like 2,800, $2,700 now? You could put in an ionizer. That's probably another $800 to $1,200. So we're up over $3,500, $3,600 range. A HEPA filtration system is somewhere between $4,500 to $6,500. We're up to around $10,000 now. We haven't talked about a Remy Halo or an air scrubber or anything like that. So now we're up around $1,200. How about a corrosion inhibitor? How about a easy start kit? How about a surge protection system for the indoor system? How about one for the outdoor system? What are we up to, 15 grand now, and accessories already that could be on every one of your lists that your clients could choose if they wanted to, right? Have you built a car lately? I went in to build a Tahoe a year and a half ago. Did you know there were 95 options?
Oh my goodness.
95. Why do you think there are 95? You think it's because people have been choosing them? Why are you guys not putting all of your options in front of your client? Makes no sense to me. Makes no sense at all. And though putting those in front of them will do one of two things, one of three things. They will either buy some of that stuff, ask you about how much a new system is, or tell you they don't want any of it. You're not selling it anyways already. Why in the hell would you not put it down?
So any of the three answers is fine.
Amen. I'm cool with no.
Yep.
I'm cool with it because I get to lay my head on my pillow at night knowing that you got a mold problem, I tried to solve it, or you got a water quality problem, I tried to solve it. You said no, I did the best I could.
And no just means no today.
That's right. Some people
Doesn't
are so
mean I won't
negative.
call you in a couple months
People are
because
so
I've had
negative.
enough.
They gotta tell you no like 5 or 6 or 7 times before they tell you yes.
Yes.
Right. So,
Yeah.
until you really master people, expect that you're going to lose some. Right. This
And
is
that's okay.
when you got into your trade, guys. Were you awesome at it the first week, or did it take some time? Were you better in the 5th year than you were the 3rd year? Were your mechanical skills better? What
I
makes
hope
you
so.
think that you don't need to work that way on your communication skills? Same thing. There's a gestation period. It takes a minute, but you can compress time. You can skip a lot of the BS and mistakes by going to somebody who has already been through it, right? Going to one of the top sales trainers in the industry. Do your research.
Well, Gene, thank you so much for sharing that. That was an amazing tip. And I
It's
hope
my
they got
pleasure.
it down. If not, please check the show notes. We will also have some social media posts and bite-sized pieces that can help them come back and pick this information up because that was gold. And I love it when my guests bring gold to the show. So thank you
Thank you.
so much for that.
It's my
Gene,
pleasure.
how can people reach out and find out more about you and more about Lead Ninja and what you guys are doing? How can they sign up for a training? Those types of things.
Awesome. So you can find my social anywhere, usually at Gene Slade, GeneSlade. All right. You can also text us 239-848-6533. 239-848-6533. And if it's not rude of me, may I plug the next event that's coming up?
You bet. Go for it.
Awesome. So I'm going to date the show right now. We will do these in the future, but if you are able to see this or listen to this before April 5th and 6th of this year, in Fort Myers, Florida, we've got an event that is actually the most affordable event we've ever done with the exact same content that we do at other places. And just to put it into perspective, when we do these mansion events and people come down to us and they stay with us and we train them, it's a minimum of $6,500 to $7,500 a person. April 5th and 6th, we've got a general admission ticket for $1997. So it's
Wow.
like 30% of what we've charged in the past. We're putting a lot more people together. There are VIP tickets. There are platinum tickets that get you an extra day and more time with me, time at my house, VIP lunches, stuff like that. But there, you can literally get in 3.5 people for what it used to cost for one person. So hit us at 239-848-6533 with a text, or any of the social platforms. You can drop a message and my team should grab it and pick it up.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for offering that out to the industry, because it is so important. And what you're doing really counts and is really making a difference. And I'm so glad we were finally able to get you on our show. We've been
I'm
working on
sorry
it for a
about that.
while.
It's totally my fault. I take personal responsibility for all of it.
It's okay. You get busy people and you try to coordinate two busy schedules, and
Yes, ma'am.
sometimes it takes a while for
Yes,
them to
ma'am.
line up.
Mhm.
So thank you again. And thank you, listeners, for listening to another action-packed, gold nugget-filled episode today. And we are looking forward to our next one. We'll catch you on the next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.